And welcome back to another episode of South Star Classroom. I'm Charles. That is Jubilee. David will be joining us soon. Our international man of mystery is somewhere on the planet. I don't know where he is because he does really cool stuff, and I don't know what he has going on. He did tell us. I just have a terrible memory, but because one Jubilee Ransom is here, Jubilee, how about we do your favorite thing, which is to check in. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
The hills are alive with the sound of music. Oh, tell me that you've seen that movie, Charles. I don't want to have to block you. Have you ever watched The Sound of Music?
I've seen The Sound of Music. I will not partake in it. Thank you. David is here, y'all. David is here. Thank you, David.
In the nick of time.
David, I asked her to check in, and somehow we're talking about The Sound of Music.
Woo! It's one of my favorite, musicals. Did you see that she made her family's entire wardrobe from curtains? That lady was anointed. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead, Julie Andrews. I'm doing great. I'm tired. I am gonna take an early night nap today. That's what me and my sister call really going to sleep for the night, a night nap. But it's a great day. I am realizing that it is fall, and that now I cannot wear open-toe shoes. So that makes me a little sad. That I have to put my feet inside of shoes now, like closed-toe shoes. And that's my check-in. How are you?
We're doing well. I'm gonna throw it to our man around about town here. I like that hat, man. I think you had that hat on last time, the La Jolla hat with the. I like the colors. That's kind of fly. Can you surf? I see it's a surf shop hat.
Yeah, surf, bodyboard.
Look at you. He skateboards, surfs, he DJs.
We do all of it.
Tell us more, international. The other guy's international man of wisdom. But how are you doing, brother? Check in for us.
I am good. Fun fact. My wife is half. She's 3/4. How's this work out? She is half Mexican.
Okay.
And half German.
Okay.
On her father's side, they are the ancestors of the Von Trapps. Going back. So you have to educate me
about the Von Trapps. I
don't know that much about it. I just know
who are the Von Trapps. Jubilee had a big reaction. I don't know. I'm ignorant to this.
The family and the Sound of Music.
Oh, got you. That's No. I've seen the movie. I've not committed a thing from that movie to my memory. Thank God.
So there's that. And let's see, general check-in. Things are busy. Definitely getting a lot more mail, with these elections that are coming up.
Yeah.
Tracking. I live in a different area now, so I'm tracking some of the local elections. And we have a local election for an assembly seat for the state of California for our local area.
Okay.
And it's interesting down here. I think there's a Republican running.
I was gonna say y'all Republicans get traction over where you at. So
we do, but there's also this kind of like fight for like the centrist Democrat and then the kind of more progressive, called quote unquote radical. And so there's a guy who is running down here. I won't say his name because I don't know if I'm going to vote for him, but one of his opponents, an independent expenditure, put out a hit piece on him, right? A mailer kind of attacking him, saying that he's not to be trusted. Here's his name. But look, there's a picture here of him, of supposedly him, and he's like shaking somebody's hand. And look at.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Got him. What can you do? You can't do anything.
Oh, you think that's a real picture? I thought that was just made.
No, it's
Photoshop.
It's clip art.
Okay, I thought you were saying like they caught him actually doing it. Okay, I'm about to say, wait.
No. Yeah. But I think that's pretty funny. They got him with his crossing his fingers behind his back. That's classic.
Oh man.
Anyhow, other than that, good.
Well, it's good to see y'all. I think I guess my check-in, for Energy Converters, the organization that I run, we are expanding. We have a national cohort, which is really cool, but that means I've had to hire. So we had over 200 applicants in the first week. We weeded through those. I did the final 4, did the check references of the final 2, and it's gonna be, we extended an offer. It's probably getting extended right now. So that's cool and scary. Like, I don't have children. I don't want them, but this is my baby. It's like the first time. It's like having like a premature newborn, and then you and your wife is like, we want to go on vacation. So this the first handing that over is kind of what that feels like. It's a little vulnerable. I hit the road again tomorrow. I honestly don't know where I have to look. I don't know where I'm going. I will have the next 3 weeks, 2 weeks, as it's a bunch of travel, kind of head spinning stuff, but I'm blessed to be able to do it and publishing some new stuff, man, and then just grinding and working and it's blessed. I get frustrated and tired, but these are the things I pray for. I'm extremely blessed, and I want to make sure I sit in that gratitude. So I appreciate this podcast and what we do and what we create. And with that being said, I cannot wait to throw the reins to our beard of wisdom, knowledge. Still don't know. I mess it up every time. I just say both. But what are we talking about today, David Castillo?
Yeah, so we are going to talk about the phenomenon known as misinformation, right? And we're going to talk about it through the lens of, we should probably do this first, through the lens of what happened recently in the Southeast. So we've had 2 different significant hurricanes hit the American Southeast. We had, I think first was Milton or Helene. I forget it was Helene.
Helene, yeah.
First, causing significant issues in and around, like the Gulf Coast of Florida, as well as North Carolina, South Carolina, some parts of Georgia. This is how big this thing was, right?
Yeah.
I think even before it really hit the coast of the Gulf Coast of Florida, it was already causing havoc in North and South Carolina. It just goes to show you how big it is. And caused significant flooding. We've all seen the videos, in these areas of like Asheville and a couple of other areas. Basically, river valleys got swollen up and took everything in their path. It was really sad, and a lot of people died. And so there's that. And then a couple of weeks later, not even a week, about a week later, we get Milton, right? And it hits the Gulf Coast again of Florida, and kind of goes through this time, really impacting just that local area, which is huge. It's like the whole, Central Florida. And again, loss of life. These are like real things that happened. The Gulf of Mexico is definitely, the temperature has been going up, every year. It's warmer than it's ever been. And so these warm waters are a perfect breeding ground for tropical storms to form into hurricanes very quickly. So
yeah,
that's the Bill Nye part of the presentation. Right. We live in this world of constant media. And, I remember a time when I was explaining this to my son. I remember a time where you could only catch news if you had a TV with the right rabbit ears. At maybe 2 or 3 times during the day, you could get news, right? Morning, maybe an afternoon.
Yeah, morning, 6 o'clock, late, and then
at like 11.
Yeah.
11, yeah. And, you could get print media. You could get it delivered to your home in the morning. So when you wake up, newspapers on your porch. And for the real news junkies, you could also get like an afternoon print.
I was gonna say, wasn't the Examiner? Was the Examiner an afternoon paper?
Yeah, the Chronicle was the morning.
Chronicle was morning. Examiner was
Yep, exactly. Down here, it was like the Union Tribune was the Union was the morning paper, and then the Tribune was the afternoon. But point being is like you couldn't get news nonstop like you get it now. And so now with all these things happening, the news cycle is it's incredibly fast. Like we've already kind of forgotten about a lot of this stuff. But these things happen, and like I said, a lot of destruction. Hundreds of people have died. And we get constant media and updates about both the storm and then the impact of the storm and then the government's response to the storm, right? We have this thing called FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Administration. Not a perfect entity, it's part of our government, so always room for improvement. But this, a lot of misinformation has come out of, I would say some of it, the media, but a lot of it just independent social media, people making YouTube videos, and all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories that are floating on out there about mainly, well, not just the government's response, but even the response to climate change and what caused these hurricanes.
Do you want to feel, before we get into the question, just on the newspaper thing, because I miss newspapers, you want to feel old? You're about to feel old. So I used to love Siskel and Ebert. I was born in Chicago suburbs. So we had the two papers, the Tribune and the Sun-Times. And it was like this big thing when Siskel and Ebert, one came from the Sun-Times and one came from the Tribune. They built that show, which is kind of now what the internet is now, which is crazy. Gene Siskel started writing at the Tribune in 1969. And Roger Ebert started writing at the Sun-Times in 1966, bro. Like, I remember being a kid, like watching that. And I mean, when Ebert or Siskel wrote about your movie, like it was like make or break. And I did not know they started writing in the damn 60s, bro. I did not know that. Fun fact, did you know Roger Ebert also, who his famous girlfriend used to be? Oprah Winfrey.
Wow.
Original power couple. Yeah.
Back in the day. Wow. I didn't know that.
Back in the day when she was starting to build her empire and stuff, man. Yeah. His late wife is actually, his other wife is black. His wife is black too. The one that is over his estate, but they have a pretty good relationship and they've tried to, keep his legacy going and all that stuff. But yeah, man. Sorry, not to take us off. I know you got to talk about information. I love Siskel and Ebert.
Connected to it. Yeah, I mean, it's connected. It's just the way that we consume information now. And we'll definitely get there towards the end of the show. But I want to hear from both of you. Like, what have you? I mean, I have family in the area of the Florida Gulf Coast, right? So they've, houses flooded, been ravaged like twice within a week. And it's just
crazy.
Like it's a real thing. It's happening. And then you start reading stories about, some pretty extreme conspiracy theories about weather or about the government's response. It's getting kind of crazy on the ground. And I think there's still some power issues. So people are having a hard time tapping into, electricity, maybe Wi-Fi. So information is going slower. That's definitely a real thing. But what have you all heard? Anything coming out of these last two storms that just doesn't quite sound right?
I'll pass to a lady first. You can go or defer.
I mean, I defer. I haven't really heard anything outside of just headlines, but I don't have any close people that live on that side of the world that were like impacted. So it's really just been what I read. So I will pass to the doc.
Yeah, we had, in our national cohort is launched. We have some Georgia youth are in that area. So when the first hurricane came, they weren't able to join session because they didn't have power. And a really good friend of mine, Dave, Centaur, who comes in, he lives in Georgia, and they were without power for an extended period of time. Luckily, they weren't in the path of the second one, but to be hit like that back to back, honestly, man, I stopped. I would go out and seek out whatever news I needed to. I subscribe to this thing on my phone called Ground News, and it's really dope because it lets you know of a key story, and then it gives you all the stories and lets you know, it gives it a score around, is it published in a left-leaning place, a right-leaning place, an independent place, but it also takes everything from all of those places to kind of distill the facts. That's what I just started reading because you can't really trust almost anything. Everything has a slant. And there was a moment in time that you talked about, David, where we went from Tom Brokaw or like 3 stations or who was the one that my grandmama used to love? She used to love that old man, Ed, whatever. What was his name? He was like a really famous news dude. She had a huge crush on that guy. Anyway, whenever he came on and talked, we had to shut up. But it switched from being about news to about like special interest or like becoming entertainment. Like they have to sell ads the same way a basketball game sells ads. So that's never going to work out for us. Now, man, I think, you know, me and you were talking earlier, David, like I definitely heard about, you know, a political party or somebody owning a weather gun or something that can control the weather or lasers. I mean, kind of crazy stuff. It's just getting to the point of absurd. So honestly, the news kind of makes me depressed, whether it's CNN, Fox, MSNBC. You know, I might watch it here and there if like there's like a specific piece that I'm pretty educated on, but I might fall into some of this trap around not really trusting the people to the degree that you're supposed to trust them, you know? So
yeah,
that's what I would say, man.
Yeah. And so, so a couple of, and we've got a couple of these in the chat here. You know, one of the stories that actually got some legs, it was on YouTube, it was on social media, saw it a lot on Twitter, was that, you know, we're heading into an election and the government, you know, created these storms in order to like be able to come in on the backside and help the people to look good, to, you know, help the Democrats get reelected. I think you could probably argue that government in some way, shape, or form has caused hurricanes over the long term, but you know, with global warming and their failure to respond to climate change. But I don't know about the weather gun theory. I haven't heard of that. But people are reading this stuff, right? Not able to like interpret it. Young people are reading this stuff, and like, at what point, you know, are people sitting down with them and like helping them to navigate? Because it's good. It's easy for us, right? We're grown-ups, you know, we're educated. We can kind of, we can weave through this stuff, but so many people can't. And it really it forms like their reality, and it's not real. It's a problem. The other thing was with the first storm that, you know, really caused havoc in North Carolina was that FEMA wasn't coming. There was no help. They had given, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars to immigrants before, you know, this and that. And like there was no help coming. Right. And so people started helping one another out, which is kind of what you have to do in an emergency. I think you should be able to rely on government, but like, you know, you're not going to wait for them, right? You're going to help your neighbors out. That's a natural thing to do. And so I'm going to play this clip. This is the gentleman that runs FEMA. Okay. And so not only is FEMA having to respond to two back-to-back, you know, major hurricanes, but, you know, obviously you have to communicate about it, right? You have to communicate. If there's misinformation, you have to clear this stuff up. So let's give this a listen here. Let's see if I can do this.
You got it, David. We believe in you. I will
see.
I will stretch while you get it going. It was okay. Marjorie Taylor Greene said that the Jews control the weather. This is from October 9th. She also accused the Rothschilds of starting forest fires with space lasers. And she's now accused of shadowy they of causing both Hurricane Helene's damage as well as the incoming destruction of Hurricane Milton, expected to make landfall in Florida. This is from October 9th. So yeah.
All right.
Can you see that?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. No, you got to put it up on the screen, but go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
You got this, brother. I'm good at stretching.
There we go. All right, here we go.
We can put this rumor to rest. You have the funds to take care of everything with Milton, correct?
We do. We have the funds to take care of everything for Hurricane Milton. The people do not have to worry about FEMA not being able to provide assistance to them.
All right.
We want people to know that.
All right. I asked because you now have on your website a whole section that's dealing with rumor response because of all this disinformation. We just heard President Biden talking about it. There are reports now that FEMA workers trying to help in North Carolina are getting threats from residents there who believe the disinformation that if they accept help, the government will seize their land, or if they accept $750 in emergency money, they won't get any more. None of that is true, right?
None of that is true. This misinformation is.
I mean, it's remarkable that this that he has to respond to stuff like this. So now FEMA has to run its own, a new kind of part of its website just to tackle the misinformation in the media about what their role is. And people have been arrested for plotting or, pulling rifles on disaster aid workers, right? People are like in jail right now down there because they've gone to that place where, like, maybe there was some distrust of the government early, and there's a lot of that going around right now. And then the storm happens. People are telling you that the government's not going to come, and if they come, they're going to kick you off their land and take your home if it's deemed uninhabitable. And then the FEMA guys show up with help, and, like, you point a gun at them, right? And now you're in jail. So these are all things that are, like, actually happening. And my wonder is, a lot of this is like conspiracy theory stuff. A lot of it has to do with people's inability to navigate information and media, right? We talk a lot about that in this on this show. So, given that, what do you what do you think the role? Like, how do we get around that? Like, what can be done in communities to ensure that this type of information is not weaponized, right? Conspiracy theories. What is the role that schools can play? What about the news media? We've got things like Twitter that are just, Twitter has now this thing called community notes, which if you put some information out there, it will correct you, but it will take a while to correct you. And so once it gets out there and people see it the first time, it's like, it's gospel, right? People rarely go back and, like, double check.
The good thing is if as it's getting shared and stuff and reposted, that the community note will continue to show up, right? Like, so I gotta give Elon his props for that. I know, Elon gets his fair share and he deserves it. But I think that was a good thing. Listen, man, the other thing that I was reading, the World Health Organization had to publish something on misinformation and just the negative impact that it has on people's behaviors. And, like, that's like an actual study around what's happening, right? And, like, the systematic review of published studies found 31 reviews that analyzed fake news, misinformation, disinformation, and infodemics related to health. I never heard of infodemics before. Misinformation was defined as false or inaccurate information deliberately intended to deceive, while disinformation also includes misleading or biased information, manipulated narratives of facts, and propaganda. They're trying to distill between the two, because misinformation versus, like, somebody just being wrong and disinformation. Like, so listen, man, I think you have to have a smarter electorate. I think you have to have a smarter citizenry. And, like, what there used to be, like you have to get back to teaching critical thinking skills and how do you look for unbiased information. But here's the thing: this country, our leaders have to take a lot of the blame for this. Like, the thing that sounded like a joke that I said came from one of the most powerful women in this country, right? That is a and I think some people really believe this stuff. And the research also said that conspiracy theories or misinformation and disinformation and all that stuff, it targets certain communities. So it's like vulnerable communities. So it's not just is in Black communities and brown communities, but it's also in, like, those poor white rural communities, right? Like, if you've been watching this stuff and you've been watching how people feel about DEI, and not the DEI as we know it with the nuance, but, like, if you live in Appalachia, you know what I'm saying? And you're watching this and you're dirt ass poor, and you seeing these Black people, these brown people talk about all these things, and you like, I'm hella poor, and then you feel like you lose and stuff. It doesn't. I'm not surprised that somebody in Florida, if you show up at their house, have you been to Florida? Like, I go to Florida. I like Florida, but Florida is like, the way they talk about Chicago for Black people is what Florida is for poor white people. So you might get a gun in your face. Like, these people might think that you're trying to take their land. And if somebody poor and they feel like that's all they got, that's what they're going to take. But again, this disinformation, these poor school systems, they're not just hurting black kids. They're not just hurting brown kids. I focus on black kids because I'm black and we tend to be at the bottom, but it's impacting our country as a whole, man, where people are afraid and they don't have information and they don't know who to listen to. Like, I listened to everything for COVID. I did a bunch of COVID videos. I did the thing around the mask and stuff. I remember if somebody said that it came out of China, it was racist. And then you know what happened? Shit came out that it came out of a lab in China, right? So it's like when something like that's been beat into you and then you find an inch, like, these conspiracy theories don't have to be fully right. They just got to get a little bit right. And then now people are like, well, what the hell, man? You know, so I don't know if we'll ever be able to lock down the same way again. And it's because
they tap in
of this.
They tap into like that. They get that little window open. They tap in there, start pumping it. And all of a sudden.
But our government has to be honest too, right? Like it's okay to be like, you know what? We were all afraid. We didn't have a lot of information. Based off what we knew, this was the best way to go at the time. We got more information, and now this is what we know. You get what I'm saying? It's like, be an adult about it, you know? Like, people can respect that. Like, if I'm trying to do something for you, David, and I get it wrong, but my heart's in the right place, and I say, you know what, man? I really just messed that up. I'm sorry. Here's the right information. You'll be like, oh, okay, well, let's move forward. But if you're trying to stand on it, people are really not going to trust you. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough, man. Ju.
What do you think needs to happen, Jubilee? You're raising two young men.
I mean, I think it's like what Charles said around that whole critical thinking piece. Seeing that picture that you showed initially, with the the fingers crossed behind the back, is something that perhaps children nowadays and maybe some adults would look at that and be like, "Yo, look what he's doing," and wouldn't even think twice about it. Wouldn't think like, wait, I mean, if people are photoshopping, butts and body parts and right, like, of course they're gonna Photoshop that, right? And not realizing like how political our world is and has become. Because I think it's gotten worse. Like, it's just hard to find even the middle ground to say like we're just reporting facts here. We are not trying to get you to vote Democrat, Republican, or what. We just want you, here's the facts, and then make your decision based on the facts. We're so far away from that, So I do agree with the whole critical thinking piece. I do also believe, like, and I think both of you probably said it as well, the accountability piece. But I think some of this stuff links to Trump, some kind of baseless comments he made, and even when people like him make baseless comments, because he has a fan base, because he has people that believe every single thing that he says. And even if he were to come out and be like, oh, my bad, I misspoke. That's not true that people are out hunting, FEMA workers and all of that. I think the people that follow him and listen to him, they don't course correct, right? Because it's just like, well, he said it. By the time if he ever, because I've actually not seen him or someone like him come around and be like, oh, my bad, let me correct. But by the time he comes around, that rumor, that statement has already made it, and people are making decisions based off of this baseless rumor, and trying to preserve whatever they have. But yeah, that's what accountability and critical thinking, and I'm concerned about our news, right? Like, we still got news stations, but who's reporting like real news, like accurate, just the facts, right? And who's actually watching that? Our social media, right? I think you said it in the beginning, Dave, like this whole idea that people are just putting stuff out because clicks, right? It's just bait. It's just trying to get you in, and people are, putting that stuff out just for that, for popularity, for clicks, for ads, for whatever it is, not thinking that this is having real impact on people's lives. But who's holding them accountable?
I saw two. So, YouTube is now obviously a huge thing, right? A lot of people get their news from YouTube, which is interesting. And when I say news, I'm talking about like videos that people were putting out many videos right after the first storm, I think was Helene, right? People in the North Carolina, South Carolina region were doing people that were like stuck and, couldn't get out of their homes or couldn't get out of their areas or didn't have access to water. This happens in a natural disaster, right? These things happen. You've been through a harsh winter in Chicago. You've been through different, weather related incidents. I'm sure too, Jubilee, and so have I. But I was watching these two videos, and I'll tell you about them. These are like, the first video was a middle-aged woman who had a YouTube channel like blow up. Like her videos are getting like 2 million views per video. And this is right after the first storm. And what she was basically doing is walking around her property, talking about how, if you haven't learned how to survive yet on your own because the government's not coming, now is the time. We've had several warnings, COVID. It is now time to forget about anything that the government will do for you, even though she's waiting for her power to come back on, which is a function of government. And she's taking people through her garden. She has a garden. She's like, the squash is almost ready, so we're gonna harvest the squash, and we've got strawberries, and over here in our pantry we have a couple weeks worth of supplies, and we have a goat. I'm like, that's average people. I have a garden too. I have a pantry with food. I have extra water in the garden. I have a generator in case something happens.
But do you have a goat? You see?
No, if I could, I would. We're gonna get goats.
Goats, man. Yeah, goats.
I used to have chickens. But
yeah,
she's presenting it like this is the new world order, right? Like she's a real survivalist, and she's making a shit ton of money off of her YouTube videos, right?
Yeah.
Capitalizing on this. There was another one which I'll send you both separately, and you can judge for me.
I mean, it might be dope. Shit, she I don't know. She seemed like a funny old lady. How's it going? It seems like it's going well.
She was what do you call it? Dramatizing it, like trauma pimping. I don't know exactly how you would say that.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And then there was this other couple that did a series of videos. They're like in a band. They're in Asheville, North Carolina when this thing goes down, and they're stuck in this like really nice what do you call it? The Moxie Hotel, right?
The Moxie.
Moxie, yeah. Like God forbid they're stuck at the Moxie for 3 days and like walking around. They're just like
this big.
They're like there's no more water. The only thing that we can drink is like flavored carbonated, spritzers or whatever.
Yeah.
The internet keeps going in and out, and they're walking around just like this town.
It's very different.
The croissants are cold. He's like, we gotta get out of here. We're gonna try and leave tomorrow at daybreak. So they start to use these dystopian terms. Like nobody uses daybreak. Right? And I was watching it and I'm thinking, this is like Portlandia. It felt like a post-hurricane.
Perfect example. Portlandia.
And
love that show.
I'll send it to both of you and you're going to crack up. And I was like, and this guy's getting
also,
millions of views
kudos
too.
to Portlandia for getting so much shit right. I mean, they predicted Portland's like demise. But yes, it is. It's listen, man. But here's the thing, all right. Like, and also you met my
rant. I had a rant. I had to get that out.
Oh, it's all good. You met Miss Helen. I mean, Miss Helen, we have all kind of greens and stuff. This is pepper oil that she like made. It's actually delicious. It's for everything from the garden outside. She actually has some of my property is garden stuff she's starting to grow, and and she cooks a lot of things directly from the earth because, and again, she's not like one of these survivalists per se. She's just an older Black woman, and she just doesn't trust. I mean, she'll eat from the supermarket, but she doesn't trust the supermarket like that, right? She's like, I don't have pesticides on my stuff, and then but here's the thing. I remember that sounding crazy a long time ago. And then you get the reports on, where Monsanto has done with everybody's food. And you don't know, even the organic food isn't organic anymore. Here's the thing. Like, this would sound more absurd if so much shit didn't actually come into fruition, though, So it's like that, like everything has a pound of sugar in it, man. Like when I found out how much sugar was just in ketchup, it's just like, yo, like what's happening? And then, I traveled. I was in South America and I got orange juice, and the orange juice looked different. It was a lighter color. It wasn't sweeter. It was like but it tasted like an orange. You know why? Because it's a fucking orange. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like like what we're drinking isn't even that. This ain't even Tang right now. So I don't, it is the misinformation. We have to do something about it. We have to find ways to tell the truth more. We have to find ways to discern the truth. Here's the thing, though, right? At this point, I'm not saying one party doesn't lie more than the other, but I am saying that most people in my community don't trust the government at all. You know what I'm saying? They're like, they're gonna second guess everything, and it's just But here's the thing: I'm also an adult. That's what politicians do. Politicians say stuff to get elected, and then they kind of roll back or whatever. You get what I'm saying? It's like, where's the give and take? And their part is like, okay, how much growing up and maturing do I need to do? I don't expect a politician to tell me the truth. So it's like, but when can I expect them to? Is it COVID? Is it what's going on with the health relief here? Like, there's a lot of people that said they were going to ride out this thing in Florida. And I remember when Katrina happened and some people couldn't leave and all that stuff. But, when that's all you have, like, I never thought I'd own a home. I'm in a different place in my life, but there is a part of my brain that was like, hey, man, this storm is coming and it's going to wipe out your house, to where I'm like, I'm not leaving my house. Like, this is all I got. So my heart goes out to some of these people, man. Like, listen, we're not talking about the assholes. We're not talking about the people that's trying to make money online or whatever. People are genuinely confused and scared during these times, and they don't feel like they can trust anybody. So I just wanted to offer that different perspective, because some shit that sounds crazy to us, and then you be like, that ain't crazy to such and such,
Yeah.
Word to my pepper sauce. It's really hot too, and it tastes great on chicken.
It looks great. It looks great.
Yes, really good.
A couple. So we've got a comment here from Bill. So we'll see if we can connect this. Right, he's talking about the state tests in California have been released. Right. Overall, like, still less than half the kids are proficient in reading and writing English language arts. Yeah. Right. We had a point. What is that? A 0.3 jump? Wow. Okay. Tony Thurmond can keep his job. So we talk a lot about schools on the show. This is kind of what we're grounded in. There's a similar campaign, and I'm not talking about the academics. Like, we can all agree that academics in public education, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, primarily for Black and brown children. But another misinformation campaign that we've talked about on this show is like this this kind of panic, like school choice, universal school choice thing that's happening right now. Mm-hmm. Even Trump is talking about school choice. Like, it's something that like resonates with people. And unfortunately, we don't hear enough about parents or politicians talking about academics. Instead, it's a smear campaign against public schools around safety. They're unsafe for your kids, right? Mm-hmm. People pulling their kids out, homeschooling them, whatever. I did a little bit of research, and there's an organization called the National Center for Education Statistics, and they clearly show that over the last 2 decades, with national data, school crime rates have actually gone down. More students are reporting feeling safe at school over the last 2 decades. There's still challenges that exist, obviously, but statistically speaking, schools are safer than many other public spaces for young people, right? Yet you have this like misinformation campaign around like how schools are such dangerous places for your kids. So again, another example of this like misinformation machine.
But here's the thing though, right? Again, David, I'll play, devil's advocate. We see in schools get shot up every year multiple times. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, like, how can you not be fearful of that? I don't have kids. Yeah. I know that if I did though, like, I would, like, listen, I remember the first time hearing about kids doing shooter drills. Like, it's just like, wait, what is happening? Like, that's the reality. When I lived in Kentucky, we was doing tornado drills. You know what that meant? I was scared of tornadoes, B. Like, tornadoes came and they actually happened. I've done tornado drills and been in actual tornadoes. So in my mind, I'm connecting shit. We doing these drills. That means that this shooting thing is going to happen. So again, I think there's misinformation that is malicious and people are trying to start a narrative. I also just think that there's genuine like confusion too at times, you know, like that's kids, man. And I think that right now we're in an angling capitalist moment, meaning that like everything has to be political, hyper left, hyper right. There is no room for center. There is no room for thoughtfulness, right? Like when we were kids, we did not know the political party of the people delivering our news. We just think you just didn't know. Maybe you could look back and kind of discern or whatever, like, you know, but people would like, you know, something happened to Reagan. You found out a lot of people love Reagan, but you get what I'm saying? Now we know way too much about people, and everything is about what they personally feel. Some things just need to be fact. I'm getting to a place where I'm tired of hearing about their truth or that truth. Just give me the truth. Like, what is the truth?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
you made me think of Cuomo during COVID. You talked about COVID. Mm-hmm. And despite his, you know, demise and how
he killed it during COVID in the beginning.
Killed it during COVID. And so this, because I was thinking, I'm like, well, man, like, what's the local?
Which governor or anchor?
Governor.
Okay. New York, yeah,
New York at that time. But what made me think of him, because like, all right, FEMA is like federal government, it's like, you know, all the higher ups, but it's like, what's happening on the ground? What's local government doing to get ahead of these, not even just get ahead of the rumors, but to share accurate information? And then that made me think of Cuomo, because COVID, the pandemic was a really hard time, as we all know, because we lived through it, right? And there were plenty of rumors, right? There was plenty of misinformation, right? Like, is this an airborne disease? Is it like, how does it spread? How does it not spread? Should I wear a mask? Should I not wear a mask? Like all the things. Should I, when my mail comes from Amazon, should I like Lysol it before bringing it into house? Or like, can I buy stuff from the grocery store? I mean, a bunch of questions, right? But every single day, Cuomo and Dr. Fauci, right? Even if Fauci wasn't there every day, but I feel like for a while it was every day, would get up there with a report. This is how many people are impacted. Here's how many hospitalizations. Here's how many deaths. Please stay inside. Please, whatever the highlights were, whatever the people needed to know. And every single day, multiple times a day, he was up there sharing this information. He was sharing facts. He was sharing science. Now, you know, if you decided that you didn't want to pay attention to it or deal with it, fine, that's on you. But the information was given.
But you're seeing all this stuff now, though, right? Like Dr. Fauci has had to go and roll back. This is what I'm saying. But he's had to go and roll back and say that actually wasn't true. Like this is what we thought at the time. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're allowed to course correct, right? But I think what I'm getting at is just what it seemed like in the time was that it wasn't about politics, and it was more about human safety and wellness and keeping a city, you know, united and together at a time of crisis. And like for me, sitting home hearing the ambulances driving past all day long, and then seeing that over time there were less ambulances, there were you know, kind of added to my feeling of safety and security, and feeling like, okay, maybe this is not, you know, getting worse and worse day by day. Perhaps it's getting better and better. I think you're allowed to course correct. If you gave misinformation, you should definitely roll it back and all the things. But at the time, I think that was really strong leadership, you know. I think that for the most part, listen, I am not naive to where I understand that sometimes leaders have to keep some things from people. I think, you know, trying to like make sure there isn't mass hysteria, trying to, you know what I'm saying? Like you don't want to yell fire in a crowded building. I understand that you have to keep order in certain ways, right? I also understand for some people that's going to be on, I mean, they on Fauci's head. They're going to be on Fauci's head till they die. You know why? Because a lot of people lost people. Like they didn't get to say bye to their wives or their husband. We all know somebody who lost somebody during COVID and they couldn't be there in the room with them, right? Like, so I think, and people were so, this is what I remember, because I'm not mad at Fauci. I'm not mad at Cuomo, even though they did do a lot of like the way if there was a death during that time, it just got blamed on COVID. Like it was Agreed. Wild. It was a wild time. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, right? It's like
like, well, damn, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're gonna keep the secret, you got to keep the secret. Like, if you're gonna keep it, like, we can't find out. I just think that, like, I think, David, I love this topic because it's a nuanced, tough topic to deal with, because there is a difference between people that are genuine and scared and don't have information and trying to piece things together on their own versus people that know the truth and know facts and just say lies and profit off of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's what you were highlighting. Like I don't want to misconstrue those different things, right? Because I've seen people just not know what was going on.
I think we've got some business to take care of, right?
We do, because we have sponsors, and I need to do that. But the conversation's so good, man. Like,
we're gonna have a good. We're gonna go out strong. We're gonna have a very strong.
But McDonald's is gonna give us a nice reprieve.
Yeah.
Today's episode of BS3 Network is brought to you by WickDonald's. McDonald's is going to WickDonald's and creating a universe for longtime fans of both McDonald's and anime. I love sauce on my McNuggets and can't wait to try the savory chili McDonald's sauce. It's savory, chili, and bold. For decades, across various episodes and genres, McDonald's has shown up in the anime world and most commonly called WickDonald's. McDonald's will be bringing the WickDonald's world to life with episodic shorts and manga comics. For a limited time, anime fans will have the opportunity to experience their favorite fictional restaurant. You have until March 25th to try the new.
It's beyond March 25th. They've redone it. McDonald's and Wendy's are in a war right now. They got big promotions going on. I'm team McDonald's because they paying it. But no, man. But I do love this topic because it is just the nuance of it, right? Like, again,
I mean, so people are afraid, right?
Yeah.
And so the whole point, and we've talked about this too. You know, like I want to bring it back to like young people, right? Because this is kind of a lot of the world that we all work in, and this is kind of what our show is about. You know, if you look at, and we did this a couple of months ago, the world is actually, you know, safer now for young people than it was, you know, say 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, right? But we're afraid that somebody's going to like abduct our kids, or somebody's going to, you know, indoctrinate them.
You mean teachers can't smoke in schools anymore?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In the hospital,
but you know,
there's no smoking in the hospital anymore.
it's you know, and it's natural for parents to be very protective of their kids, but young people are growing up in a very different reality now. I mean, I'll speak for my own home. It's very different than the way that I grew up. And you know, what we need to be thinking about is we have people like Donald Trump that spoke at the Economic Club of Chicago today, right? In addition to lying about a bunch of things, he continuously referred to Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, as Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom. Like economists and CEOs in the room, you know, and this guy's name calling. So I'm thinking, like, as adults, right? And,
crazy.
You know, what kind of like model do we need to set for children? I'm not talking about the name calling. I just threw that in there, but like to analyze information, to analyze news, to make sense of the world in a way that they can accurately understand what's going on. And I know it's a struggle for us too as adults, but like, what do we need to be doing differently in our homes? What do schools need to be doing differently? You know, around media literacy, what are they already doing? Because it's really beyond, you know, social sciences, humanities, mathematics, sciences, whatever. I mean, there's this whole other world now that, you know, young people are living in. And so how are schools preparing, you know, our young people to understand and interpret media, to interpret everything that they see on the internet?
Yeah. I mean, the first word that comes to mind for me is curiosity. I think that our system has a way of quenching curiosity. you got that little 4-year-old mad annoyance. Why? And it's so, it's like, stop asking why. But it's like, no, don't stop asking why, because maybe that could be a pathway to you discovering the truth, rather than what somebody put, in front of you. And I feel like in my home, I'm like always on the soapbox because I don't want my sons to just accept anything. Like, I want you to, look at it, research it. Like they do something in social studies called DBQs, like the document-based questions, which I love. Interestingly enough, it's because this is year 21 or 22 for me. And since I started as an educator, they've had DBQs, right? But like just to help.
What does that mean?
Document-based questions where they find an old article or some kind of document that actually existed in the world and basically put it in front of kids for them to dissect it, to analyze it, to try to make sense of it, right? But I just feel like that is what gave me the strong ability to be able to analyze and critically think, right? Not somebody just giving me information, but somebody putting, resources in front of me and then trying to, I guess, coach or guide me into how to look at that information as a critical thinker, right?
Exactly.
And I feel like that is a skill set. If we teach our students and give our children, our students, give them space to be critical thinkers and curious, instead of quenching it, I think that we will be okay. Like, I think that's the beginning of it. I think in many ways,
Jude,
stop kids from exploring, for whatever. Am I back?
No, you're fine. You're good. You're good now.
You're good.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought, so I'll throw the ball. But if it comes back,
we did something similar. I think my training might be a little before yours, but we would call them at least in California, training to be a social science high school educator. Primary source documents, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just going back to like an original document, an original news clip, an original photo, an original like text, and not even consuming it for the sake of consuming it, but looking at it at a meta level. Like, where is the bias?
Yeah.
Who is the audience? And this stuff goes way back. I mean, you go back to like the especially it goes back a long time in different forms. Now we have the internet and it's just like super hyper fast, right? And it's like nonstop. But this goes back to print media. Obviously, it goes back even before print media. People spreading misinformation and lies for political or personal gain. So yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, man.
You got something, Charles. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just was gonna say I was commenting on his vaccine thing, which is interesting because I learned about vaccines, and then I learned how long it takes for vaccines to actually be viable, and then I saw that we got a vaccine way sooner than what was supposed to be viable from the things that they said. But I understood it. Here's what I was gonna say, man. I think I'll show you what I use. But aside from that, I'm a nerd. I read a lot of journals and stuff, but that's later. I used to trust like the Atlantic. It's kind of shifted a little bit. I mean, it's elegant, but I don't know how trustworthy it is. I mean, we were just having a conversation about this earlier, David. Like I do research, and like I have to be an asshole around certain things because it's easy to start to drift and creep, to make things work. But here's what I use, man. I pay for this. It's called Ground News, and it like tells you like here's like all the stories. Let's just look at one. Coca-Cola. Oh, okay. Who reports on this story, right? Coca-Cola recalls zero sugar lemonade after it's found to contain hella sugar. But it breaks down, right? Like the places where it's been reported. Okay, 4 of these is 7 places reporting on it. 4 are leaning left, 1 is leaning right, 2 are center, right? Like
this is good.
That's dope.
And it aggregates for me, but and it also has a thing called blind spots, meaning that, okay, Charles, you're a left-leaning Democrat. Here's some news you might have missed because you're a left-leaning Democrat. And it's worth it for me to pay for it. Like there's like blind spot, right? Like, oh, okay, for the left, for the right. Like if you're, like, oh, here's how they report on this RFK thing. So I watch this because it's an aggregate of all the news stories, and I can kind of attack it like I'm researching data. And it's kind of changed things for me. So like I can see polls, and it's funny because I'll hear people talk about polls, and then I'll go look here, and it's like, oh, this side is reporting polls this way, this side is reporting polls this way.
Yeah.
Al Jazeera is kind of in the middle and they're reporting it like this. Let me go with the Al Jazeera, or it'll take the facts that remained true in all of the places, get rid of the publication, and be like, here are the bullet points that were kind of corroborated by all of these entities, right? And it sucks that we have to do this, but
Question.
that's what it is. Yes.
Question for you. What made you look up this resource, or how'd you begin to engage with this resource?
So there's a few things. There's a few things. One, when I worked at the school district, this is when shit started to change for me. And I worked for the superintendent, and I had to kill, and a part of my job became killing fake stories, because I'm a part of, like, I'm here. Like, this is a blatant lie. Like, bro, this is not a truthful story. And just, I did not, you always hear it, but I did not realize how rampant hit pieces just were a thing. Like, it was just clockwork. That was one. I think two, I became a little more disenchanted with, like, and I have friends on MSNBC. I have people that I watch and things like that. And I'm part of that generation. But I used to be like, okay, CNN is the one in the middle, MSNBC is on the left, and then you start seeing stuff, and you like, wait, that don't jive. I'm actually educated on that. That don't seem right. And people were just believing it. I wanted to have a trusted source for whenever I was talking about something, that I knew what I was talking about. And I treated like research when I was getting trained to be an academic, just like where's the main, where are the primary documents, where are the primary sources? Can I see a video of somebody saying this? Can I see an audio of somebody saying this? And here's the thing that's scary about that. That shit is changing. You can't trust that now, because the deep fakes have gotten so strong and so good, right? So it's like, pretty soon, man, I don't know if you're gonna be able. I don't know if I see this getting better. I see it getting worse with technology continuing to grow and improve, and they finding new ways to trick you. And as long as there's money to be made off the fears of people, and advertisements are sold in conjunction with news, it's going to continue to be what it is. I think that there should be. And here's the thing, I can't say there should be state-run news, because then we're North Korea, then you're Russia, then you're China. And it's like, but there should be an entity that is like nonprofit only. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, because all of it has room for corruption.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. We're kind of limited on time, but yeah, the idea of like definitely not like state-run media, because we've seen that never works out well. But like, what does it look like to actually be? Yes, and it's going to be political too. It's like, is it a Democratic, government? Is it a Republican, administration? But like some kind of, more enforcement. Not going to call it censorship, but something needs to happen, because, I mean, there was even like, did you all hear about this supposed like third assassination attempt against Trump here in California?
Yeah, I heard
it's like
about
it's like it got out there. It's like floating out there, and then you pull it back, and the guy's like a Republican, and it's like they let him go on a 5K bail, and you're like, what is going on?
This is crazy. Chaos. I don't care how you feel about Donald J. Trump. That is a former president and somebody running for president. You can't just be shooting at people running for.
Well, I mean, and that's the whole thing. I don't think the guy was shooting. I think
they got him early. They got him early. They actually did their job this time, and it was like, this doesn't track. They said, we looked in his car, and his car was disheveled, and we asked for his credentials, and he had the fake license plate. So we was like, maybe we should check this guy. Man. We was like, well, how did he get past the first round of security? Like, so but still, man. I mean, 3 attempts, bro. Like, that's. One, assassins ain't what they used to be, but two, it's like, this is like, I mean, I don't want to joke about somebody's life. I don't like the dude. I'm not voting for him, but I'm not rooting for somebody to shoot him, bro. Like, but this the thing. We're so far beyond the pale, because there are people that are rooting for this man to be shot, and I just think that like. You can't. What's good for the goose has to be good for the gander. My side, listen, Democrats, left-leaning people, liberals, listen to me. All these things that we're trying to do, or like, or kind of step over the line on, when you punch, people punch back. Like, you can't expect something to happen here and not have it happen back to you. So, and I just, all of us need to have a reset, man. Like, the adults have left the building, and they need to re-enter the chat.
I agree.
I'm going to do my closing thoughts real quick, and then I'm going to let both of you
Oh, yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. I think that might have been mine.
I want to return back to the original like subject about governmental agencies that are responsible for doing a number of things, right? So you have like Democratic administrations come in, Republican administrations. Obviously, there's going to be politics involved. But when I think it comes to like, federal emergency management response, when it comes to other things, like we need to just as a people, like respect those things as politicians, not politicize those organizations because they do play a very important role. I think education is a great example. Shouldn't be, a partisan issue. It should be, it's a function of government. And I think we need to be very clear about this. I think the fact now that, everything is getting so politicized and people are attacking the very people that are coming to help them, right? These are like Americans attacking Americans. It's people love to like Bill said earlier, create chaos, right? Create chaos. And so I think we do need a reset. I think we need to rethink, how free the media and speech is, because it's crazy now, and I think we need to like revisit that. I also think going back to the point about young people, if you're a parent, you have young people in your home, talk to them about this, listen to them, ask them what they're hearing, ask them what they're thinking, ask them what they're feeling, because it's a lot. I guarantee you, because there's a lot happening. And we're just talking about these hurricanes, right? And then I think schools, I just saw something last week where a local college happens to be my alma mater, University of California at San Diego, is adopting, making a climate change course mandatory for graduation for all students, right? And so think about high schools, media literacy, a mandatory media literacy course that is approved at the federal level, at the state level, whatever. I think it's something that we should do and that young people deserve.
Yeah, Jude.
Yeah. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. I was thinking about how Trump got up there in that the last debate and said how the people were eating each other's dogs and cats and how like those guys whatever he said. I don't remember if the what do you call it? She's not a mediator. What's the role? Commentator. What's the name of the lady who's facilitating the
moderator?
Moderator. Thank you. I don't know if she fact checked it or what have you, but this is the kind of world we live in. That a high level.
They fact checked it. The city manager said that those claims were overblown. That it came from somewhere. But I don't think it was happening at that way, right? The same way some people say that there isn't the issue happening in Aurora, and other people are like, "I'm here, dog." Like this is happening. But what do you believe at this point, right? Like
for sure. I think about the fact that this kind of like misinformation, I think it impacts everyone. But I always think about Black and brown people. I think about people who are in poverty, right? It's just like. We might have different resources to be able to kind of climb out of a hole or figure out information, but what about those people who just don't? So I feel for that. I think the resource that you shared, Charles, is really helpful, and I'm going to be looking into it, myself, because right now my process and what I teach my sons is okay. So you clicked on that on TikTok or X or Instagram or what have you, read that. I was like, but what did you fact check it against? Like, what else are you looking for? So it's like, okay, you got to go to CNN, go to this, go to that, and then see if the information corroborates, correlates. So anyhow, so I think that's a good resource. And lastly, I mean, it's got me thinking about this quote. James Baldwin said, "I love America more than any other country in the world. And exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually." And that makes me think that word criticize her perpetually just makes me think of what I was saying earlier in terms of being what's the word I'm looking for? Being a critic. I don't want to say overly critical, right? But having that critical consciousness and reserving the right to question whatever comes before you, and never letting go of that right, not just for our country, right, but for whatever you believe, for anything. Just remain critical, right? Stay in a place where you are consciously critical and asking questions and asking why until you find the truth. And that's that.
Yeah, I think for my final thought, one, this is a great topic, and anytime we run out of time and there's still another hour left that we can continue talking about, you got to shout out the person that put it together. So shout out to you, David. I think this is a good topic, and I hope the people out there ask questions, make comments, share this, and like have your own thoughts. Like and subscribe if you can. I think for me, my final thought is just like, it's complicated and it's scary because I don't know what the real is and what the fake is anymore. It's becoming very difficult to tell. Everything is about feelings, and we care a lot about feelings and algorithms more than like actual facts, to the point where perception is becoming reality in a lot of different ways, man. And it's really scary and it's really sad. But I mean, it's not anything new, right? Like, this has happened in different eras. I mean, there was an era where if a woman got on your nerves, you could call her a witch, and she was burned at a stake. I mean, that actually was a thing that happened. There was an era where people were owned, and if they ran away and they looked like me, they didn't have any papers on them, they could be taken back into captivity. I mean, so it's not like these aren't things that we haven't seen that's comparable, but this is our issue. And are we going to like succumb to it, or are we going to overcome it? Are we smart enough and disciplined enough? I think that our incessant need to be liked and accepted is keeping us from being a better society and being where we need to be. And if we don't get a grip on it, I'm telling you, man, empires fall. They fall all the time. And it's really sad and it's scary, especially when something that's killing everybody, or a hurricane that can hurt everyone, or services that are meant to help people. And here's the thing. I can throw shade at people that got stuff to say about FEMA, but I'm Black. I remember Katrina. I remember people that still got these stories that's waiting on those FEMA checks and those FEMA vans. So, some people, you ain't got to do them wrong but once, and they will never, ever forget, and they will never forgive you. So I'm trying to see the humanity in people that I don't agree with, people that don't look like me, people that have different experiences. But the one thing we all have in common is a human experience. And if I can tap into that, maybe I can be better, and maybe me being a little bit better helps the world in the grand scheme. Y'all, this has been another episode of South Star Classroom. Omar, wherever you are with a tuxedo and a cape on, we love you. That's David. That's Jubilee. I am Charles. And we will see you all next week. Same bad time, same bad station. Y'all take care of each other. Peace.